Yes. My saddest moments sometimes in life is meeting people at a comedy festival and they're backstage and they're going to perform.
Yeah.
But they're not comedians, but they're very funny people. And they're
Please
addicted.
explain in terms of...
I will. And they're addicted to comedy.
Yeah.
But they are not comedians, because a comedian is someone who tells a funny story,
Right.
and has a way of telling that funny story so that it resonates with whoever's in the group listening to the story,
Yeah.
and ultimately that people laugh, because that's the
Yeah.
job, you know, no matter what the topic is. But there are people in the world who are in love with the idea of comedy, but when they're telling the story,
Yeah.
the group around them, because the storyteller is not charismatic, and the storyteller has the punchlines all in place, but
Yeah.
it's not landing, which means technically you love comedy, but you don't have the calling to be the comedian.
And that's something that's innate, like...
And
you're
you've
just
got to,
born
and you've
with
got
it.
to feel it. And I've not a lot, but I've met people in South Africa who get to take to the microphone,
Yeah.
and I get a bit sad because I know that they are amazing people, and they should be.
Yeah.
There are other areas.
I think it's difficult nowadays because I feel like everything is kind of like intertwined in terms of social media. Like everyone is a reporter,
Yeah.
everyone is a presenter, everyone is a comedian, everyone is a singer, everyone's a dancer. There's like constantly challenges.
For me, until you take me to my grave, when you say the word comedian,
Yeah.
I'm going to insist that it means somebody who's holding a microphone and standing in front of people who are real and alive
Stand-up
in
comedy.
a room.
Yeah.
That's because now people are asking me for the different interpretations
Yeah.
of comedians, because we've got to now look at Instagram, we've got to look at TikTok, and those people, some of them have millions of followers,
yeah.
more than I could ever dream of.
I mean,
and they're hugely successful.
The biggest follower right now, all he does is...
You know, and when I do things that go on TikTok, they go, I know that you do take after take after take.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the fourth take. Well, with me mostly it's the first take. But I'm just speaking so that
Professional.
I'm trying to be
Yes.
accessible. But sometimes after the fourth take or the fifth take, that's the one. And
Yeah.
you go over it, okay, yeah, it's going to land. Oh, wait, let me chop that off, let me edit that. That doesn't happen on stage, which is the thrill of being a comedian. When you screw up, you can never take it back. And it's wonderful. Because
Yeah.
while you're screwing up, you go, some people, I mean, I usually tell the audience, that did not go as planned. Like, tomorrow night is going to be brilliant. But so you don't get that. So
Yeah.
real comedians get that privilege.
Yeah.
I see it as a privilege, even when you're screwing up.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, particularly in the world in which we live now, because the other stuff, come on, man, the edge is out of it. You've got more protection now when you've got the camera in your
That's
hand
true.
and you're able to edit.
Yeah, that's what I like in terms of this flowing like conversation, unedited, uncut. When last did you die on stage? Does it still happen? Wow, I'm guessing it. 20 years ago.
Listen. For me, I'm a very strange child.
Okay.
I'm mentally, I'm mostly quite healthy.
Right.
Mostly.
Yeah.
So there is no room in my head for dying on stage. You know, you got to turn things around very, very quickly. So I think for the vocabulary that I have for myself is that did not work as well as I hoped it would. But there's laughter.
Yeah. But
There's
then,
laughter,
but
but
then
the-
do you have the cheat code in terms of like, I know I got this joke that always works. So like when that happens, you're like,
Of course,
instantly
every
going like,
comedian has, I call them the lifesavers.
the lifesavers.
And you've got the lifesavers in your back pocket, and while you're telling the gag that's not landing, you can already feel you've screwed it up. You're going to go, okay, let me do the one about the orange juice quickly, because that always works.
Yeah.
But I tell stories, and I I tell funny stories, and so when I write, I think for the audience, and before I go on stage, my work is directed as well. Anwar McKay, my partner, also mostly directs and produces a lot of my work. And he's quite intense. In terms of the story has to be funny. And you only know whether it's going to work when the first audience comes in. And that's another part of being the thrill of being a comedian.
And how's it working with your partner? You've been married for 30 years, right?
Yeah. Well, 28 or 27 or 26 or 20. Yeah.
You might have to cut that. Just to save face. But
we got married in 2010.
That's not far.
Yeah.
No, I felt like 2010 is like.
No, we got married in 2010, but we were together for a long time before that.
For a long time. Yeah. How's it working with him in terms of? Do you ever feel like, okay, this is not professional now? It's a bit too personal in terms of like feedback.
Yeah, working with your partner, it took me very close to Jesus.
That's a lot for someone who grew up in the church.
Very close to Jesus. Because, you sometimes go, wow. Because it's difficult for me because I'm born on the 4th of December. And the people who are born in December, in late November and December and early Jan are perfect. And you've got to live with that.
Sagittarius and...
The Sag people, you have to live with the fact that you're perfect. I say this in so many interviews. So as a perfect person, what makes you perfect is you also know when not to speak, because you've got to give other people the space to quietly realize and acknowledge that they were wrong. So, so that for me is a large part of, when you say, what is it like to work with your partner? I exercise those skills where I just go, bite your tongue, Mark, because you're perfect. It's not fair to this person that you write all the time. Let that person find the time to come back to you next Tuesday in the kitchen and say, I just have to say, you were absolutely right, Mark. But I think every
with that said, is that a key to a successful marriage?
No, the key to a successful marriage is 2 bathrooms.
Can I tell you something?
The key to a successful marriage is 2 bathrooms.
Once you have 2 bathrooms, you cannot go back.
No, you can't go back. And I think no matter how gorgeous somebody is or how much you fall in love with somebody, sometimes you go into a bathroom after that person's used the bathroom, you will often go, wow, you thought this was okay. You really think this is okay. And you go out there looking like $1 million and a wet, dirty towel on tiles for you is okay because you're rushing off. Sorry, do I sound like I should be in counseling? But 2 bathrooms can save a marriage. So that's the secret to success. But I think just coming back to the thing of a director, I talk to a lot of my friends now who are in the industry who've been without a director for too long, and now they tell me they're struggling to, even the idea of getting somebody into the room to say, hey, this is my material for Saturday night, do you want to listen to it?
Oh, wait, what?
They say it's hard now because they've been without it for too long. So I'm glad that I got into it, before Anwar.
And in terms of like your stand-up, do you still like work the clubs before in terms of like gathering material? Or you just...
I'll tell you something. I mean, we're sitting here at the Radisson. And there was a gig in this room where I had to perform, and we were on that little platform there, so there were people sitting there. Do you know what hell it is to perform for a small room? It's a nightmare.
More nerve-breaking, I imagine.
Give me a stadium any day. I've never performed in a stadium. But I normally perform in theatres. I feel protected in the theatre. I love a theatre. You're on the stage, there's the crew, and you're a family, and then people come in. And when people walk into a theatre, they just behave in a particular way, which is good for my storytelling. Because I like people to sit. They know they're going to be entertained by me, and you're going to get the show.
And I got to ask you, in terms of theatres, right? one thing about theatre, in terms of my experience, most theatres, like, phone is away, packed away, like intermission, you take a break, then you can look at your phone. How do you feel in terms of, I feel like you go to comedy clubs sometimes, you understand, it's like, okay, don't record, fine, but now there's like social media, it's like everyone wants to, I was here, type of thing. So how do you feel? No phones?
I don't know, I'm not anti-phone. Phone is, publicists are going to kill me. I don't want to say it's replaced the publicist, but a good publicist who's working on your show will tell you if there are people in the audience who want to film for 2 minutes, they must limit it obviously, let them. Because who's going out to buy a newspaper? Who's actually going online and going, let me go to the site of the newspaper and get some links there. No, I find a lot of people are just onto TikTok, onto Instagram to get something interesting. And if, while swiping, there's the person who they were following and the person was at a gig last night, that then becomes your news story, what would have been in the newspaper. Mark is on at the Baxter. There's a clip. People were laughing in the background. Maybe I'll go and check it out. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've been telling theatres, those ushers who they send running around because you get aggressive ushers. These are people who should have been in the army.
But I went to a show to watch, I think it was Mamma Mia or Encore. And one usher was like, you don't record, this is my house.
And they were like that as well. But some of them got that torch, and they go. So these are people who have other issues in their lives and they're roaming about like normal people. I think, I think the phone's on for a bit, but then enjoy the show. Put it away. And also what I find is there are a lot of people who are sitting behind people or next to people. They are not comfortable with that happening next to them all the time. So I think it's about being considerate and having a good sense of being social at the right time in the right way.
And also the emphasis in terms of comedy, like the punchline is relatively almost the same, right? So you kind of like ruin it for people. It's not like artists where you're like, okay, sing along.
Once you record the thing, everybody knows. Everybody knows I will always love you, but not everybody knows the punchline to the story about the brown chair. So that's also something to consider.